Well, another game for the West Virginia Mountaineers basketball program and another missed opportunity, and it's all disappointment at this point. West Virginia falls on the road to TCU 60-54. We're going to have you covered here, breaking down the action in this episode of Mountaineer Moment. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Mountaineer Moment, episode 152. My name's Troy. I am your host, and this is your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. And this episode's not the funnest one we've ever done. West Virginia falls on the road against TCU, and something we've talked about very often over the course of the last few weeks, just an opportunity for West Virginia to make some noise, to do something. And they lose. And they lose in pathetic fashion because it was another late game meltdown where they forgot how to play basketball. Before I tell you anything about this game, just know that it was about the 5.5 minute mark, 5:40 maybe, when West Virginia, on her huff, knocked down a three to give the team 52 points, and they had the lead at that time. And West Virginia's next points, next bucket, next everything came with 25 seconds left. So over 5 minutes passed in between baskets with 5 minutes to go. And so there's your game. West Virginia was trailed by 5 at the half, got it down as many as 7 or 9, and took control of things in the second half, had the momentum. The stadium the arena was quiet. And it's not that they jumped out to a huge lead, did West Virginia, but you had a 2-possession, 3-possession lead. And, with 5-6 minutes to go, you just stopped playing offense. You stopped doing anything. And you allowed TCU to, not like they had to go on a furious comeback, but you allowed them in the game and to, after they got stops or you had turnovers or stupid possessions or stupid shots, TCU took advantage. They scored. They executed down the stretch. David Punch with some big buckets. Xavier Edmonds, we'll talk about him. Massive double-double for him. We'll get into all that. But the story is that over the last 5 minutes, you went ice cold from the floor in a game in which you had the lead. And that just absolutely stings. Like, that is just terrible. Terrible feeling. Disappointing loss coming after a really disappointing loss, right? You left the Utah game on Wednesday night. I was like, oh, that was the most disappointing loss of the season. And now you come Saturday, it's like, hold my beer, right? Like, West Virginia had this game. That might be a little strong. But I think you can certainly make the argument this is a game West Virginia should have won. They executed in the second half for a lot of it, did some good things. Defense was great. There was a massive scoring drought for TCU. You had a lead, and then you stopped scoring, and the other team won. Simple as that. And just incredibly disappointing. And it is a meltdown because you are on the road, extremely high stakes game, right? Whether you think West Virginia is in the conversation on the bubble or not, many experts, even after the Utah loss, still had them there, still had them in that conversation. Also in that conversation is TCU. People, 50-50 it almost seems like, what side of the bubble is TCU teams on. And so this is a massive game. You have an opportunity to knock off a team that's ahead of you in most bubble projections. You have an opportunity to beat them on the road. It's a Big 12 battle, right? Is the Big 12 going to get 7 teams, or are they going to get 8 teams? And you came into this one thinking just maybe, if there's going to be 8 teams, it's going to be one of these 2 teams on the floor. Well, what a golden opportunity to beat a team that's ahead of you right now. And then, we said it pregame. Well, if in a few weeks we get to Selection Sunday and it's like, all right, guys, at the committee, right? You're sitting around the table, you're having the conversation. We're going to put an 8th Big 12 team in. Who's it going to be? West Virginia, TCU, similar resume, similar conference record, similar this, similar that. Couple signature wins here and there. Oh, well, it's pretty even. Well, what'd they do head-to-head? West Virginia lost to TCU on the road. TCU took care of business at home against West Virginia in that one matchup they had. Let's put them in. The opposite could have been said, right? You win this game, you get to 8-6. TCU falls to 6-8 in conference. You win this game. Selection Sunday comes around. Two teams that you're considering. One beat the other head-to-head in a road game for a quad one win. Let's put them in. And instead, we're sitting here talking about the former argument that, well, if it comes down to it between these two teams, and I'm not even going to sit here and say that it's going to come down to that at this point because you've lost 2 in a row, and you're reeling after just the biggest win of the season on Saturday against UCF to throw your hat in the ring and make some noise about what your team's doing. You drop 2 straight in typical West Virginia fashion. You just suck and you blow it and you lose another opportunity. And this one was a big one against the team that's on the bubble. That's the deal. A meltdown. An absolute meltdown. 60-54. West Virginia can't play offense. They scored 25 in the first half, 29 in the second half. The team simply can't put the ball in the hoop. That's a problem. And that's where we'll get with our next point, which we've already hit on, just the offensive incompetence. And it goes beyond the shot-making ability, which we'll get to, but late-game decisions in the second half, right? It wasn't just that, with 5.5 minutes to go, they stopped scoring. It's that they stopped executing anything offensively. Yeah, there were some made shots that you'd like to have, but there were turnovers. There were forced shots. There were forced dribble drives when it led to a turnover by Honor Huff and Jasper. And there was just costly mistakes offensively that looked like an offense that was struggling, and newsflash, it is an offense that has struggled all season long. At this point, certainly not this point, we knew this a few weeks ago about this West Virginia team. It wasn't a fluke that they were playing the way that they've been offensively. This is who they are. They're a team that's going to score in the 50s, and usually that's going to be about it. It's unfortunate. It's sad. It's disappointing. Fill in the blank. But it's the reality of what this team is right now and what the reality of what this team is going to be for the remainder of this season. Point blank, period. That's the truth. This team is offensively challenged to the 10th degree. They cannot put the ball in the hoop, and they look lost on the floor. It was incompetence down the stretch when TCU ends up taking the lead with a couple minutes left, and, well, everybody's playing hot potato with the basketball besides Honor Huff, and then he has to try and do something, throw something up and misses or turns it over, or, it was hot. Nobody wants the ball late game. Everybody's scared. It's incompetence. You got to put the ball in the hoop, and you got a bunch of guys out there who are scared to attempt to do that when you're down late in a close game. Incompetent offense. Now, if you look at the box score, as we'll do, we'll get to a major point here about TCU and what they did on the glass. But box score-wise for West Virginia, 13 for Honor Huff, 4 of 10, 2 of 7 from 3. Jasper Floyd, 5 points, made one of his 3-point attempts. Obioha, awful game. 14 minutes, 2 points, 1 of 5 from the floor. West Virginia drew up a beautiful offensive set with 4 seconds left in the first half out of a timeout. And he smoked the layup, and then he got the rebound and smoked another one because he cannot finish around the rim, and he's 7 feet tall. Don't understand that. Belo, decent game, 10 points, 4 of 8 from the floor. Trayson Eaglestaff, 8 points, 2 of 5 from 3. Banked one in. Luckily, he had 4 turnovers in this game, costly. DJ Thomas, 5 points. Chance Moore, really active, 9 points, 8 boards. He was the best performer. He had 4 blocks and 2 steals. He was everywhere. Mountaineer player of the game in this one. A shame we couldn't get a win. Amir Jenkins, 2 points off the bench, as he seems to do quite often. TCU side of things, Xavier Edmonds, 14 points. David Punch, 12. Brock Harding, the point guard, 11 points, 6 assists, 14 off the bench for, what was it? They said it so many times. Lelevucic? I don't even know. I forget. All of a sudden. Lele Vicious? I don't know. He had a lot in the first half, finished with 14. The point here, if you're watching on YouTube, the major killer is the glass. They out-rebounded you 39-28, but that's not the big one. Offensive rebounds for TCU, 19. You lost the game 60-54. You gave up 30 in each half, and you allowed TCU to have 19 offensive rebounds. they got to the line as well. It was Hack a Horned Frog in the second half, 18 for 27 from the free throw line compared to 9 for 12 for West Virginia. West Virginia did some things in the paint with Chance Moore, but they, didn't get to the line nearly as much, weren't as aggressive down low. And part of that is OBO Hawk couldn't stay on the floor. This West Virginia team went several stretches with, Belo playing the 5. Right? You ran out Jasper, Honor, Belo, Trace and Eaglestaff, and Chance Moore. And that shows why we don't do that often. Because you got killed on the glass. Belo only had 3 boards in 33 minutes. Again, Chance Moore had 8 in 26 minutes. DJ Thomas just 1 in 16 minutes. Obioha 3 boards in 14 minutes. Again, he was a complete non-factor. All of Obioha's rebounds came on the offensive end. This team allowed 19 offensive rebounds to this TCU team because you didn't have your bigs in the game because you couldn't because they weren't playing well. And, it's a shame that Belo's not 7 foot tall. He's only 6'9", and the Chance Moore's, 6'7", 6'8", whatever he is, right? You like the small ball thing kind of on offense, you think, but obviously it wasn't that great. You scored 54 points yet again. But you give up 19 offensive rebounds. You got absolutely hammered on the glass. And if they weren't putting it up and in, they were getting fouled and going to the free throw line. They did that again 27 times, and that's, to me, the story of the second half. Now, this next point I'm going to raise is just kind of the reality of this West Virginia team this year. We've already touched on. And I always think of Bob Huggins. I said this earlier if you were watching immediate postgame over with Mountaineer Paul at Locked On West Virginia. When I think of West Virginia's offensive woes, I often think of just how simple, Bob Huggins would seem to make the game sometimes. Post-game and pre-game or whatever, when he just talks about making shots, he would often just talk about, they can make shots, or they can't make shots, or they need to make shots, or they need to get in the gym and practice making shots. West Virginia doesn't make shots. They just don't make shots. And if you don't believe me, look at what this season has looked like. They went 5 for 21 from 3 tonight. That's 21%, 24%. You score, just dating back, we don't go super, super far back, but going back to the Baylor game, you scored 53. You scored 59 on the road against Cincinnati in a win. You scored 63 somehow against Texas Tech. That's an offensive outburst for 63 points. 56 against the worst defensive team in the Big 12 in Utah, and then 54 against TCU. The team does not put the ball in the hoop. Not a good recipe for winning games. This team is severely offensively challenged. Brennan Laureate misses dunks. Harlan Obioha misses layups. Honor Huff throws up crazy shots. Sometimes he makes them, sometimes he don't. Lately, he seems to not make them. Eaglestaff can't make shots. When he does, he banks it in a 3. Mir Jenkins isn't a shooter. Chance Moore's not a shooter. Jasper Floyd's reluctant as a shooter, right? He came off a game where he had 3 made 3s against UCF, needed all of them. Next game out against Utah, didn't even shoot a 3. Didn't even look to shoot a 3. Made one tonight against TCU, then stopped looking. The team simply doesn't put the ball in the hoop enough to make the NCAA tournament. Let's just be real. Did we really think that this was a tournament team? We said that after last game, and then it's like, okay, well, projections are still showing us to have a chance, and we got a really golden opportunity against TCU. Let's go beat them. And you didn't, because you can't make shots. Shot making. Putting the ball in the hoop from a set position where you jump and throw it up and fling it into the hoop or fling it in the vicinity of the hoop. West Virginia is good at that, but not good at putting it in. Sometimes the game's really simple. I'm just here to tell you, the team doesn't put the ball in the hoop enough. And there's open looks. They just don't make them. There's certainly offensive possessions where they all look lost and there's a shot clock violation or there's a turnover. But sometimes there's open looks and this team doesn't make them. With that said, obviously after the Utah game, we were sitting here talking about the bubble, and I was like, I don't really want to talk about the bubble anymore because they haven't proven anything. And, then out of that loss, there's still conversation about this team being in the picture, being in the hunt. It's an uphill climb, right? No one had them in the tournament, but on the bubble, and you squander an opportunity against a team in TCU. And so, has the bubble bursted? Like, is it over? Well, you can go win the conference tournament. That's when it's starting trending to look like you're going to have to go and do that. You got 4 games left. Obviously, that could get you at 20 and get you at 11-7. But what's the likelihood of this team winning 4 in a row down the stretch? I'm going to go on record and say it's not going to happen. I want to eat those words so desperately in a few weeks when we win 4 straight to end the regular season. But this team, who scores in the 50s every game, has given me no reason to think that that's going to happen. Right? And so, if your magic number was 20 a week ago, you came into this week thinking, they just got to get 4 out of 6. Well, they just lost to Utah and they just lost to TCU. That gives them 4 left. Now you got to win 4 straight to get to that 20. And even then, I don't know. So, I mean, we're not gonna sit here and say, well, they got to win this, got to win that, got to win this, then they got to win in the conference tournament. Like, well, if we get to that point, and we might not, right? You could go and lose your last 6 games in the regular season. It's like, okay, it's over. For sure. We're not going to be sweating on Selection Sunday because we're not getting in, and we know we're not getting in. And that very well could be the likelihood or the position that this team finds themselves in a few weeks. Now, am I going to watch the game against Oklahoma State and give you a preview here on Mountaineer Moment? You bet I am. Am I going to break it down post-game? You bet I am. But I've seen too many opportunities squandered by this team recently, especially this week. 1-11 Utah come to Morgantown, and a game against TCU who's on the bubble, and you lose them both. So I'm not going to sit here and keep talking bubble, right? Let's go and let's try and beat Oklahoma State. But this team's not in the NCAA tournament, and it would take a lot for them to get there, and I don't think they got a lot in them, to be honest. So, depressing way to end this episode 152 of Mountaineer Moment, but I really don't know what else to say. It's disappointing. Failure after failure when you're given an opportunity, when you're given it on a silver platter, when you go a 5-minute scoring drought in the second half on the road against a team who you're beating and they're right ahead of you in the conversation for the NCAA tournament, and then in the last 5 minutes you can't put the ball in the hoop. Extremely disappointing. So, but with that said, I mean, Mountaineers got Oklahoma State on Tuesday, and we'll have you covered right here on Mountaineer Moment. We'll see you then. Let's go Mountaineers.